For our final retrospective episode of Chats with Specialists, we focus on Japanese art. From contemporary and modern prints to turn-of-the-century lacquers, Asian Art in London participants offer their clients a wide range of mediums, prices, and artists. We start by talking to dealer in Japanese lacquerware, Simon Penny.
I'm a dealer in Japanese art, is my specialism. I'm particularly focused on lacquer and pieces from the 20th century and contemporary, although I do have older pieces. I wanted to talk about a piece which I think is really rather amazing that I acquired last year in Japan. This is a piece which was shown in 1946 in the National Art Exhibition, which has just started up again after the war. The National Art Exhibitions were a very important part of Japanese culture, and they had obviously gone on hold during the war. In 1946, this piece was shown, and it, to me, epitomises the situation Japan found itself in at the end of the war. It's a lacquer piece. I could show it to you very briefly.
Yeah, please.
By doing that.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. And
Beautiful.
what you're seeing there is what's termed a food container, though I think it is far more of an ornamental object than anything really practical.
Yeah.
And the design that you're seeing on it is of dragonflies, and in the centre a single stalk of rice. Now, unlike the normal showing of dragonflies, these are very, very sombre images. There are 68 of them, all different, and it was gifted to the Prime Minister of Japan after the war, Yoshida Shigeru, who was at that time 68 in 1946. So it is quite possible that the person making this for National Exhibition had it in mind that the Prime Minister would actually take it into his collection, which indeed he did. So the dragonfly, symbolically, in Japanese art is often associated with martial arts, valor, soldiers, and the single stalk of rice is a symbol of optimism and a sacred image, really, for what actually is at the core of Japanese culture. So for me, this is something which is showing fallen soldiers at the end of the war, a rather bleak picture, but in the middle of it, the promise of a rebirth to come in the rice stalk, which is shown.
Is it something you have on display at home, or is this...
I don't have it on display at home. Maybe now that I have far more time to be at home,
Exactly.
I may choose to get some choice pieces out and enjoy them for a few days
Yeah,
at a time.
exactly. Curate your space weekly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks, Simon.
Okay.
Cool.
See you,
Speak to you later. Bye. Bye.
Yes.
In late July, we spoke to Chiko Nara of Hangaten Gallery. Despite the lockdown, she still managed to keep busy with work, one task of which was working with the artist Daniel Kelly on his new edition of prints.
Okay, I'm the owner-director of Hangaten Gallery, and Hangaten specializes in contemporary Japanese prints and paintings. Hanga in Japanese means prints, and ten means shop. So we are the shop of prints. We've been established in London for nearly 25 years and have been instrumental in bringing the major Japanese contemporary print artists to the Western market in the UK and to Europe.
I can see you've got a beautiful print behind you. If you could introduce this artist to us, please.
Yes. So this print I thought would be extremely appropriate for the current situation we're facing with the pandemic, because the print's name is called Turbulence, and it is by an artist named Daniel Kelly. Now, Daniel originated from America, but he has actually been living in Kyoto, Japan for over 40 years. And when he first came to Kyoto, he studied under a print master named Tokuriki Tomikichiro, who is a 13th generation artist, and his teacher actually studied under Hiroshige.
Oh, wow.
So there is a very sort of a important connection for Japanese printmaking history for Daniel Kelly. And in the beginning, Kelly chose to make prints that were reminiscent of classical Japanese woodblock prints. And you will see one here on the screen called Persimmon Sunrise. And this one is from early 1980s, actually 1983. So this was what he was doing originally in his early days. But in the late 1980s to 1990s, Kelly really wanted to add more texture to his prints. And this, he discovered, one can only do if one uses thicker paper than the Japanese washi paper that most artists are using for woodblock printmaking in Japan. So he started using Nepalese paper, and this one in the back actually does use Nepalese paper. It's very thick paper. It's very difficult, therefore, to print on. And so for each print, Kelly actually has to print each one of the sheets of the edition 40 or 50 times.
Wow.
So if you're looking at this print, which is an edition of 40, it means that he has to print this approximately 160 to 200 times before the whole edition is completed. And this is actually to get the gradation of the light. You see up there the gradation going from dark blue to light blue. But that's why he needs to do the multiple printing. And you will see on the screen now the actual woodblock print that he used to make this work. And I took this photograph when I visited him in July of last year. He was actually just beginning to make the print, and so it took him many months to complete. He completed this in January of this year. So also he adds a brush technique to each one of his prints to get the coloring. And you will see a close-up of this print. You'll see the sort of the rough texture of the water tumbling and the rocks and the paper that he uses. So that is quite a unique feature of Daniel Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, there's really so much texture in the prints. Like, you can see the emphasis of the handmade and hand-finished quality on it, which I think is really nice.
Yes, exactly. So that's the first work that I wanted to talk about. The second work is to show that despite the fact that in printmaking in Japan, woodblock seems to be what comes to one's mind initially, it's really that contemporary Japanese artists are working in all sorts of printmaking mediums. And I want to talk, therefore, a little bit about the living legend, Tokushinoda, who works as a painter, but also in lithographs with hand coloring. So she does lithographs using a stone rather than a metal plate. And on that, because she's a calligrapher and an abstract expressionist image person, she actually takes the sumi ink and directly draws the image that she wants onto the stone. Now, of course, she's old now, so she doesn't do lithographs anymore. She finished her last lithograph in 2007. But the lithograph that you are seeing on the screen now is called Etude. And I chose this because it has two words on the image. The word with the red sumi ink is actually the word for play, the character for play in Japanese. And the black sort of the lines on the right-hand side is the word for travel. So I chose these because it is things that we can't do at the moment because we are locked down, but because I thought there would be hope for the future, that we can play more and we can travel more.
Definitely.
And the important concept about Shinoda is she works very much with the Zen concept of ma, leaving space within a picture. So all the white space, if you see a close-up of this lithograph, is left intentionally and becomes part of the image itself, part of the entire picture. So she's very philosophical. She is a poet as well. So I think her mentality starts out actually with envisioning sort of a poem in her head before she actually takes the brush to the stone or to a piece of paper.
Yeah, I've seen people describe them as Zen paintings as well.
Well, I think in terms of paintings, it's really the Zen philosophy of simplicity rather than have human beings, because the Zen concept and philosophy and religion doesn't have idols or human beings in their pictures. It's all to do with nature. So everything that is Zen oriented will come from nature. You can almost sort of envision hearing the sound of nature in a painting. Do you want to see a close-up of this?
Oh, yeah, you have. Yeah, well, I didn't realize it was so large.
Yeah, it's 41 by 72.
Wow.
It's quite large.
The contrast of the red in all of her works is fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah. So the red is quite, it's very good. It's done by Cinnabar ink. It's her signature color. It doesn't look that big against the Kelly, but the Kelly is 51 by 76 and very small for a Kelly.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen his Persimmons, which is huge, I think.
The largest he made. He's famous for making the biggest woodblock print in Japan.
I'm definitely going to research his to print.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
Okay.
Cool. All right, thank you so much, Chico.
Thanks, Kurt.
Bye.
Bye.